The first factor affecting PES is the ease of switching production to a related good. For example, if a fishing trawler heard that the price of shellfish was to double, it would be relatively easy for them to switch to shellfish, making PES elastic. However, if the same trawler heard that the price of all fish was to fall, there'd be very little that it could do, as it is difficult to switch to other uses. This makes PES inelastic. The second factor affecting PES is the amount of spare capacity enjoyed by the producer. If there is a large amount of spare capacity, PES is more elastic. An example of this is a factory producing cars. If it is operating 8 hours a day and price doubles, it will increase operating hours and output as it enjoyed spare capacity. However, if that same price increase occurred when the factory was operating for 24 hours a day, there would be little that the producers could do to increase supply, making PES inelastic. The third factor affecting PES is the time period under consideration. A longer time period means more elastic PES. Back to the car factory. In the short run, there's little they could do to increase supply. However, in the long run, they can expand the factory, increasing supply and making PES more elastic. The fourth factor affecting PES is the ease of entry into the industry. If it is easier for new producers to enter the industry, PES will be more elastic. An example of this would be if the prices of unskilled labour went up. Supply would increase as large amounts of people would begin supplying unskilled labour. However, if the asking price of lawyers went up, PES would be much less elastic, as it is difficult to enter into this industry.
Instance of a tax. When the government imposes a tax on a good, the burden of this tax, i.e. who pays it, must fall on either supplier or consumer. For example, say the government imposes a tax on petrol. To avoid paying the burden of this tax themselves, the petrol companies will simply raise the price of the petrol, so the burden of the tax, the incidence of the tax, will fall on consumers instead of the supplier.
I'm going to impose a really high tax on petrol. I'm not going to pay that tax, I'm just going to raise the price of my petrol products.
I have to buy petrol, it's a necessity, so the instance of the tax is on me. Subsidies. In essence, a subsidy is the opposite of a tax. The government will impose a subsidy on a product in order to increase the quantity supplied. For example, the Irish government and the EU provide subsidies to dairy farmers in order to reduce the price of milk and ensure stability in the dairy industry. This can be illustrated via a graph. When the government gives farmers a subsidy of 50 cents per litre of milk produced, the price that consumers pay for a litre of milk in the supermarket falls from €1.50 to €1 per litre of milk. In addition, the quantity of milk produced by farmers increases from 1 million litres per year to 1.5 million litres per year. This provides employment in the agricultural industry and thus a stable supply of milk. Therefore, even though the subsidy is given to farmers, consumers also benefit.
From time to time, the government may intervene in a market in an attempt to assist consumer and supplier. The consumer is restricted by a price floor so that the price can't go below a certain level. Here, we see a supplier who is restricted by the price ceiling, which means that a certain product cannot go above a certain price. This restricts both consumer and applier, but at the same time assists them as well.
So to simplify the little explanation from before, if you see this in a graph, here's a price ceiling and here's a price floor. The price ceiling is a legal maximum on the price at which the goods can be sold. A price floor is a legal minimum on the price at which the goods can be sold.
Price ceilings can sometimes have an adverse effect on the economy. Take this graph for example. In the graph you can see that a price ceiling is imposed at P1. Whereas naturally supply would keep continuing past P1, here it is not allowed because of the price ceiling. If demand were to be greater than the price ceiling, as illustrated here, demand at the price ceiling is greater than the quantity supplied. Therefore, there is excess demand between the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. So not everyone who wants a good at that price can get one.
Thanks for watching Spoonfed Economics. We hope you had as much fun as we did. See you next time.
Awesome.